everybody. Thank you very much for coming tonight. We appreciate seeing big crowds of people. That's wonderful. We'll give you something to say about her, and it's all nice, I promise. Kiranada, a local fiber artist and our library meditation teacher, I can read, I swear, is off to New Zealand in 60 days to sit quietly on a cushion for a year, something I could never do. At the age of 9, she helped her dad pour the footings for the small family summer cottage in Kingston, and after living in Florida, Iceland, Arizona, and 10 years in Kyoto, Japan, she returned to this Kingston home. She is the author of The World of Wazome, Wax-Resist Textiles of Japan, and we do have the book here in the library, and it's actually on the back table if you guys want to look through it. And she has shown her fiber artwork in multiple exhibitions here and abroad, and we do have one of her textiles in the small conference room as well. She's all over the library. Kira was ordained in 2009 with a Triratna Buddhist Order in the mountains of Spain. She coordinates the contemplative arts of Sudarshanaloka, she just wanted me to say all kinds of hard words today, Buddhist Center in Newmarket, New Hampshire, and teaches Japanese surface design at the Massachusetts College of Arts and Design in Boston. She is delighted to share her solitary year with us tonight. Without further ado, Kiranada.
Thank you for coming. We have a couple yoga groups here, I know. We have a few relatives, and we have a good contingent from Sudarshanaloka Buddhist Center here, and a few more people that are sitting in the back, I'm sure. I was running a little late coming tonight because I was home making reservations, airline reservations, before we went into the next month, and they might be more expensive. And it was for this trip to New Zealand. And then we have just a few slides, because I think it would really be great to be able to see where it is I'm going. I know some of you are here just because you want to see New Zealand slides. New Zealand is dazzling. I have been there once before in 1992 speaking about the history of kimono at 5 different locations, North and South Island. So I know it a little bit. And Amanda and I, my wonderful daughter, she's going to put her hand up so you'll see her. Amanda here, and I had a New Zealand or Kiwi roommate when we returned to Japan in 1983, was it? Or was 86? 85, thank you. She keeps me online. So, and McLean is back to New Zealand and is going to help me. He's going to be meeting my plane there, so that's exciting. I come from Massachusetts, by the way. This is not a New Hampshire accent, I guess you noticed that. And where we all know of an 1845 American hermit or retreatant, Henry David Thoreau, who, at the age of 28, walked out of Concord to nearby Walden Pond and borrowed an axe and built a 10-foot by 15-foot hut for $28. My hut is a little smaller than that, and it's not $28. He lived there in seclusion for 2 years. And as a teenager, I knew something about him. I knew something about his writings in school. I'm from Lynn. We were just discussing this with my relatives. And I did hear about Henry David Thoreau in Lynn. I can imagine that. But I had read some of the things that he had to say. The masses live lives of quiet desperation. What is called resignation is confirmed desperation. I myself, he said, want to live an intentional life, to live all my years to the fullest. And here I am following through on that too. When asked why he wanted to be so antisocial and retreat from society, his reply was, I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, and not, when it came time to die, to discover that I had not lived. I remember saying this at age 19, soon after my father passed away. He was just 53 years old, and he's the guy that was pouring those footings on the house on 2nd Street with me. I said at that time, I really want to live an intentional life, and that kind of became my mantra, to live aware and awake, and I'm working on it still. Buddha advised his followers 2,400 years ago to go off to the forest alone, sit under a tree, and empty their minds. So I will go to a mountain hut, and so I can stay a little bit longer because I think the tree might be drippy if it's only a tree. So anyways, I'll give you this joke. I mean, I have this joke that I found, so I might as well share it with you. People always say public speech is supposed to have a joke, so anyways, I found one about solitary retreats. So there was this hermit who emerged from a cave after so many years of meditation, having achieved a mind of perfect calm and peace. He visited the local marketplace and accidentally was jostled by someone, and he immediately shoved back and toppled the man over. So a mind of perfect calm and peace that lasts only as far as the cave door is not really pretty great. He needs really to get out the door. Interestingly enough, I've done, I think it is 7 solitary retreats, so I know well that my experience is a little bit different. I don't come out of a retreat with anger. I really think this was someone who wrote this funny joke or something or other, but really, I really don't think it was real. I know that when I come out of retreat, I actually feel almost like weeping with compassion for those walking the marketplace or negotiating parking spaces with a short fuse. The human condition takes on great poignancy for me, especially when I'm able to step back and deeply reflect and wake up for some time. What I'm planning in New Zealand at Sudarshanaloka, which is the land of beautiful vision, on the North Island of the Coromandel Refuge, is the 7th retreat that I've done. My first solitary retreat was at a Theravadan monastery in northern Thailand before I was ordained. And I was given a room in the nuns' quarters. And when we opened the door and stepped in, I looked around. There was a table and one chair, but I could see no bed at all. What I saw was a beach mat on the floor. And I said, "Why, thank you," and moved in. I'm warning many people, if you're doing retreats and you go to Southeast Asia, be forewarned, you do a retreat in Thailand, you get beach mats. After that, I was in Indonesia, and I brought a camping mat with me because I was afraid it was going to be beach mat land again. In Indonesia, you get a mattress. You know, in Vietnam, you get a mattress. In Burma, you get a mattress. But only in Thailand, it's beach mat time. So, in case you're doing a Vipassana retreat there. So, I slept on that beach mat for 2 weeks and just doing what I could to get some sleep, and I did pretty well. What I found, there were a couple other things I was missing there, and one of them was toilet paper. And the other was a mirror. The toilet paper issue, I never did figure that one out. I mean, there are places that don't use toilet paper, but I'm still trying to catch up with some of those people from India to ask them about the left hand, right hand, and how you really make that work. Because I had 2 weeks and I never quite figured that one out. And the mirror, honestly, you know, I carried one with me. I had no idea. I was so attached, but I felt like maybe if I don't see myself occasionally in the mirror, that maybe I don't exist. And I will confess, doing walking meditation, sun behind me, seeing my shadow in front, walking along slowly, looking at my shadow, and suddenly going, oh. And thinking, my hair is sticking up. Anyways, so that was my first experience. It lasted for about 2 weeks. Following that, the next year I was in Indonesia, in Java, where I did a 2-week retreat as well at a Buddhist monastery with 4 mosques surrounding this temple. And they started at 3 in the morning, and they chanted 5 times a day. 4 mosques with loudspeakers. It was exciting. And a year or two following that, I was in Bali. There were no mosques, and I had a mattress. I was moving up in the world. But there I was bitten by the rabid dog. And of course, you know me. Some of you really, you know me through the rabid dog bite on my ankle, right? Nice 2-inch scar. I still have it. I went back there 2 years, the next year as well, and did another retreat so that I could kind of defuse the image of that fear that I might have contained there, and also to check and see if my blood had been washed off the wall in the temple, and it was gone. There was no trace that I had been there. You know, they took me to the hospital in my robes, and then I said, I have to go back to my retreat. I'm in silence, and back and I went. Somebody wanted to interview me from the newspaper, and they said, well, she's in silence. You'll have to wait until she finishes her retreat. And by then, of course, the story was a week or two old, so it wasn't worthwhile. But so that you know that all retreats are not all hard beds and bloody ankles, there's often some wonderful things that happen while you're on a retreat, a solitary retreat. And one of them was my great connection with my yidam, which is kind of a personal bodhisattva, somebody who I hope to emulate and is kind of around in my life, and that is Kuan Yin. She is the bodhisattva of compassion. My second stay in Bali at that monastery, I wrote a poem. I'm a visual artist, I'm not a poet, but anyways, but when you go on retreat, often creativity flows when you turn off the TV and don't connect with the internet, and you're not reading. Suddenly, you're a poet or something, and things start coming out. I'm also a fiber artist, as you heard, and so I sometimes say that I found Buddha with my robes or something, so this is a bit of a robe poem, so putting on her robes. This is about Kuan Yin, so bear with me. Slipping my arms through the robes of her floating white garment, wrapping that cloth around me, and raising the hood to my crown, I dwell in the soft white remnant of love and compassion. I open my eyes and see the world through her eyes, seeing this pain and suffering, and with graceful equanimity of the Bodhisattva, I wash it in compassion and reflective truth. I smell the noxious fumes of anger and deceit, and transform it with pervasive perfume of the lotus-born kindness and truth. I taste the labor and efforts of numerous caregivers, and hold the plum of generous effort on my tongue with gratitude. I hear the tap of the elder's cane, and the shrieks of children, and the cooing of birds, the engines and swoosh of a felled tree, and I am content, connected and in harmony with the multitude beings that weave me into that web of interconnected humanity. I stand and step forward in flowing robes, moving through that vibrant air, as my bodhisattva in body, in heart, and with a quiet, focused mind, radiantly clear and sky-like, to experience that waking world as my yidam, to be awakened and transformed. It was wonderful to just take myself and put myself into her space and look out the world through her eyes. What might the world look like if I was looking it out through an enlightened being's eyes? Of course, I had to wrap herself in her robes. That worked. My longest solitary retreat was 1 month at Chintamani Retreat Center in south of Cuernavaca in Mexico. Each one of these solitary retreats was significant and came with some kind of a breakthrough, usually happening 6 or 8 days after settling in. They were all silent retreats, not guided. 4 of them were at Theravadan monasteries where 2 meals were provided before noon, And the other 2, I was completely on my own, packing in my food and getting a food drop every 2 weeks, as I'll be doing in Sudarshanaloka. By the way, I'll be speaking more about Sudarshanaloka in the second half when we turn on slides for you. And I hope I'll be answering all of your questions at that time. When I'm on a solitary retreat, I am not told what to expect. I'm on my own. Schedule, preparing conditions for practice. People ask me, can I do this? Can I bring that? I said, I can hold a disco party if I want to. No one is going to tell me. It's me that puts up the limits, that knows that what I want to do is have this quiet disconnect. After 29 years of meditation practice and years of Dharma study and training, it's my chance to really sit with it and think about it. And we in our order are asked to take a month off each year to do retreat, to be by ourselves and to see what happens. I've been lusting after this for so many years, I just can't tell you. I've often told people, since seeing Birdman of Alcatraz movie in my teens, they never put me in solitary confinement, but I was ready. And so I'm doing it for myself. Those who are not ordained are asked to have a well-grounded daily meditation practice, to consult with a teacher, and to start off with a shorter retreat, solo retreat of maybe a week or 2. And I'm a good researcher, and so I have read everything I could find on everyone else's retreats to understand what they went through and what I might encounter. And one of the things I found was a story about one young man in his 20s, a new meditator, who wanted to do a solitary retreat, and his teacher was Trungpa Rinpoche. So he was sent off to Vermont with less than a year's practice of meditation to do this solitary that he wanted to do. And after 3 days alone, he came running out of the woods to his car in his pajamas with his slippers on at 3 o'clock in the morning and took off. He had had enough. They say that demons can show up. I never found demons, but I certainly did find myself in some of these retreats, and really was able to look at myself and how I behave in the world, how I move in the world, and it really helps tremendously. By the way, this man in the pajamas with the slippers became a very well-known Vajrayana teacher, and he did try it again and was much, much more successful. So I go to the wise for advice and for encouragement. And they say, one of my favorite guys, Atisha, 11th century Tibetan, he says, go far away from any place that is harmful to your practice. Always stay in a place that is conducive to virtue. There is never an end of things to do, so limit your activities. Dedicate your virtue day and night, and always be mindful. Questions that people ask me. I actually put together a website. I don't know how, any of you looked on the website? Put your hand up. Oh, fantastic, okay. And we even made one of these little cards with the website address on it for you to look it up. So people started asking me questions, and I was constantly, from 18 months ago, answering, why is it solitary? What's the structure? Do I have contact with the outside world? Why am I doing this? And what do I hope to accomplish? So, yeah, I kept doing more research and kept searching within myself. Reggie Ray, I think he was the one in the slippers, by the way, but don't quote me. The practice of solitary retreat has been an essential feature of practice lineages since the time of Buddha. It is the solitude of individual retreats that helps us to meet ourselves in the most complete way. By the way, this has little to do with Buddhism. Christians do solitary retreats, Jews do, Muslims do. Even people doing their PhD do solitary retreats. I just came across, and I got an email just an hour ago from Bob Cole, who took a year in the Patagonia wilderness on an island, dropped by a boat and left there, and to build a hut. He had a lot of equipment and saws and gasoline. He had lots of stuff, 2 boats anyways. And he just wrote to me and he said, "This is fantastic what you're doing." I told him I was going to tell all of you about him. And he has a book that is out, and it's on a reference list that I've included up in the back table. Solitude, Seeking Wisdom in Extremes, a Year Alone in the Patagonia Wilderness. He got a PhD for this, and I don't think I do. A solitary retreat is not a silent retreat. Of course it is silent, we have no one to talk to, but many of us do silent retreats, on retreat with others. The Zen people do sessions once a month, actually, for a week together. The Vipassana people do 10-day retreats, also in silence. Solitary retreat is a little different. You're really, unlike group retreats, where meal planning and preparation and cleanup are all arranged. On solitary retreats, you have to do it all yourself. These basic daily chores are part of the retreat experience. However, making the decision to do a retreat and sticking to it without the company of other practitioners is difficult. It's harder doing it by yourself and not relying on an authority figure or others to spur you on. By the way, we were just sitting in the other room this morning at 9 o'clock. We have a small meditation group here, and we were just speaking about that fact. Many of us are meditators and meditate every day, but the chance to sit together once a week really helps each other. That kind of support is just amazing. So there's a card back there also about the Wednesday morning sits from 9 to 10 at the Kingston Library. They're all welcome. That goes on without me, as it did during the winter when I was in Mexico. They're wonderful. We've been meditating together for 2 years here. So why am I doing a retreat? To have this opportunity to explore the practices that I've learned, to begin to experience my life in an incredibly direct way. Buddhist scholar and teacher Reginald Ray says, retreat practice is critical because it provides the most direct and effective way to attain personal realizations of the teachings that you have received. A month retreat can bring about a maturation of practice and understanding that might take years of daily meditation in living in an ordinary life. Through retreat practice, we learn the pathway to the person we most long to be. And Tenzin Palmo, my hero, you'll hear more about Tenzin Palmo, compared going on a retreat to cooking food, pointing out that it is not very effective to turn the heat up high and then turn it off again. And the next day, turn it on again and then turn it off. What needs is a kind of constant flame that gives enough time for all the ingredients to cook thoroughly. A slow cooker is probably best. It will take longer, but the food won't burn and it turns out delicious. And she also gave another analogy, which I love because I'm a big cucumber eater. If you are a cucumber, you get pickled, not with just a dunk into the vinegar. It takes about 6 months to do it. So I've got 12. So I should have quite pickled them. Commitment. 8 to 10 hours of practice each day over 360 days. Jigme Lingpa, who is the 16th century Dzogchen master, advises that on retreat you should never break your commitment. And so one should plan the length of time for your retreat carefully, and says, avoid contact with others, but seek out help if needed. Your attitude on retreat should be like the Samanta meditation instructions, not too tight and not too loose. Define your retreat boundaries in terms of the physical situation and your needs, and stick to it. When you go on a retreat, you make a vow of how long you are going to go in, and you stick to that. It's considered part of practice. Even if you are sick, you pledge that you will not come out. If necessary, you have to be prepared to die in retreat. This is actually considered quite auspicious. I promised Amanda that I would work at not having that. The Tibetans say, and I love this, that if you're sick, you're sick. And if you die, you die. Okay. Difficulties do arise on retreats. Milarepa, who's a great man, struggled with lots of fear and resistance. They say that fear on retreat is a sign of loneliness, and that Milarepa craved companionship so much that he conjured up fear as a companion. So put your concerns behind you, enter retreat with a sincere intention to attain unsurpassable enlightenment. People ask if I can speak on the retreat, and I said, sure, I'm going to sing my heart out. I'm going to chant to all the squirrels and the chipmunks and to this tree and that tree. Nobody will hear me, and I know that I love, if I don't chant or sing, then I start going down. So my girlfriend in New Zealand has a plant and bird and animal book that she's giving to me of New Zealand things, because they're different than here. I don't even know if they've got squirrels in New Zealand. I know they have no snakes, by the way. And also the night sky, because I'm going to be in the southern hemisphere, and so it's going to be a different sky. Even the moon is a bit tipped. I've been looking at it. And there is a woman reclining on the moon, not a man in the moon's face, or a rabbit pounding mochi, like in Japan. So I'm learning new things, for sure. To figure out, since I've only done a 1-month retreat and then I'm doing 12, I've just decided that I'm breaking the retreat up into 3 100-day retreats and a little bit more. A 100-day retreat seems possible, so I'm doing 3 of them. And then I'm going to finish it up. And my friend Sarah said, okay, so the first one you're kind of coming in, and the second one it's gelling, and the third one, you're kind of wrapping up, and the last part, you're just doing cleanup. And I said, that's good. That's a good direction. So, you know, the most joyous part of it is knowing that I have you folks with me. That really spurs me on, that people might be thinking of me over that year. That helps. So, part of my inspiration is from Jetsma Tenzin Palmo, who is well known for her 12 years in retreat. 3 continuous years in a solitary cave, 13,000 feet up in the Himalayan mountains. And the subject of Vicki Mackenzie's book, The Cave in the Snow. And some of you know of this book. She was in her late 20s and 30s when she did this, not quite the same age as me. Although she and I are 11 months apart right now. So I checked that one out. So. She said, the purpose of life is to realize our spiritual nature, and so to do that, one needs to go away and practice to reap the fruits of the path. Otherwise, you have nothing else to give to anyone. I listen. Logistics and food. One of the first things people ask me is, what are you going to eat? I'm worried what's going to happen. Carol Dobson, who is... Let me get her. Bon Yao is her Zen master, Bon Yao. She is a Korean Zen practitioner in Boston. I'm going to a lecture of hers next month with my friend down there. She went off for a 100-day retreat under some pretty harsh conditions up in Maine. She went in January and stayed until the 1st of May, completely alone, chopping her own wood, with no food drop-offs. Okay, here's the list of food. I'm real interested in this. I'm the one who's sprouting beans right now in my kitchen to see if I can do this. So she went in with 50 pounds of rice, 50 pounds of beans, 20 pounds of sunflower seeds, 10 pounds of Japanese tea, a bag of dried fruit, 1 jar of peanut butter. But I take notes. The dried fruit and the peanut butter were finished in a month. So I know I need more peanut butter. Sure. I mean, I look at this and say, is this a balanced diet? And she did it. Mind you, she did this while chopping her own wood to keep warm, waking up at 3 a.m. every morning, and before breakfast, she did 300 prostrations and then an hour of chanting before sunrise. And then altogether, every day, she accomplished 800 prostrations. That was her practice. I will be doing some prostrations, but it won't be 300 in a day, and not 300 in the entire... No, I'll do a little bit more than that. But she was a go-getter. This is what her teacher did in Korea, and so she wanted to duplicate it here. It was wonderful for her. So... And she was half my age, too, by the way. I noticed those things. And her book is 100 Days of Solitude, Losing Self and Grace on a Zen Retreat. She wrote that in 2004. Tenzin Palmo's Cave in the Snow, ate one meal a day. I really have lots of notes about what people are eating. Every day at noon, she cooked it in a pressure cooker. She's in a cave. 13,000 feet. So, everybody says, how'd you get the pressure cooker up there? She backpacked it up there. And the fact is, the meal that she had was that sampa, tea with powdered milk, fruit, lentils with vegetables, and rice, that's dal. And the dal won't cook at 13,000 feet. It'll take 3 hours of wood stove cooking. So that's why she had the pressure cooker, so she could do that. By the way, I'm not a good bean eater, so it's a little bit of a problem. She cooked, I want to go with this woman, she cooked her own sourdough bread, right? And I'm still asking, where did she get those vegetables and the fruit? Because here she was, anyways, but she had a little garden out front, and I have a garden on my porch. They're building the planters for me as we speak. After my early retreats at Theravada monasteries, I learned to eat 1 or 2 meals a day, always finishing before noon, and then having a cup of soy milk about 5 o'clock for dinner. And it actually has become, it was a special opportunity to try that and to drop some winter pounds. I did it this winter again. I dropped 14 pounds. Then I gain it as soon as I get back to Kingston. But it's surprising when you are not running your usual schedule with multiple appointments and etc. You kind of don't need quite so much food. And you're not so preoccupied, oh my gosh, it's dinner time, I haven't eaten yet. So, hard questions. I have said that I am doing this retreat not just for me, but for others. And people say, okay, talk to me about this. 18 months ago when I first came to, by the way, the first thing I did, some of you know this, when I said I wanted to do this retreat, the first thing I did was call my daughter. And I said, Amanda, I'm thinking about, I need permission from my daughter, I need permission from Mass Art where I teach, I need permission, so to speak. I said to Amanda on the phone, I said, I'm thinking about doing a year solitary retreat. And I waited. And Amanda said to me, you can do that, Mom. You can do that. And I said, wow, yes, I could. Thank you. That's my Amanda, by the way. Not one question about herself. Just thinking, my mother could do that. So I sat down and wrote about why I was doing this and how I was doing this for other people. So sitting in a small hut on the other side of the world from what I call home for a year. Why? For you. With time and space open to be of more help to others, sharing compassion and the love of all beings. For those who have others depending on them, who cannot get away for a long retreat. For all those whose health keeps them from that long flight, from those long walks, from those long hours of practice. From all those whose ties bind them to daily toil that they may not even like. For all those committed to caring for and giving to others who need them. For all those who cannot yet find a clear way through. From all those who are raising little ones who someday will grow into fine, caring adults. For all those who yearn to be on a solitary retreat and may follow this path because they knew of someone who actually did it. For you. wrote to Bob, an email back to Bob Cole up in Vancouver, and I said, thanks for the inspiration. How does someone else doing this benefit you? And analyzing that kind of our tremendous interconnectivity, they call it the butterfly wing effect or whatever. What happens in one place is ricocheted through and is experienced someplace else. We are connected in so many ways, and we benefit from the work of the good. A smile on the street brightens both the receiver as well as she or he who sends the smile. We know this, and science proves it. So my actions are benefiting others in ways that we are just beginning to understand. Another thing is modeling or inspiring others. When I was in graduate school, a single mother of a young child, one of my fellow students told me one morning, you know, I get out of bed every morning thinking of you. And I said, really? And she said, yes. She said, I think if you can do it, I can do it, and I get up. That's strange. I know that the monks that I saw on the streets in Kyoto are modeling for me, have inspired me, and have brought me here. I also know that, and have probably made me into the Buddhist that I am, I also know my very best friend from school, from college, Tracy, who loved unconditionally and was kind and generous. She was a bodhisattva. She's now gone 8 years. So, all of these people helped me to be able to do this. And I'm here tonight to share this with you so that you might know what is happening, so you participate in it in some way. Okay, but isn't it a little selfish withdrawing from the world even for a year when so much needs to be done, people say? So, you know, so I decided that I'm absolutely counting on you folks to do this for me while I'm away. You have to feed the hungry, you have to house the homeless, and clothe the naked. I'm depending on you because I'm busy sitting on that cushion. So really, I mean, you've got to do one of these things. I don't know about clothing the naked, but that's the recycle box, okay? And we also know about burnout. You know, those of us that work with volunteer situations, and people pour in so much time and effort and all. And sometimes we just say, would you please take some time off? It will benefit all of us if you would take some time off. And what I absolutely have found, people that feel they're indispensable, everything will fall apart if they go off for a long overdue solitary retreat. But we see them coming back refreshed, relaxed, revitalized, and with new wisdom to share. I came back to the United States, it's now 14 years ago, in the year 2000. I'm an American, but I came back into American society and culture and looked and watched and decided, I think I might do it a little differently than they're telling me I have to do it, because I was coming from someplace else. Which brings me to this library. I love this library. I love libraries in general. Coming back from Japan here, I realized this is unique and special. First of all, having a community that we've got here, which is just astoundingly wonderful, the connections. But likewise, even a lending library is an American institution. They don't have them in other countries. A free lending library, where you can get DVDs and Downton Abbey to watch it. It's really. And so you come back with new eyes and be able to appreciate what you have here and say your thank yous to them too. The need for solitary retreats, retreatants, according to Tenzin Palmo. In this time of darkness, with its greed and violence and ignorance, it's important that there are areas of light in the gloom. Something to balance all that heaviness and darkness. To my mind, she says, the contemplatives And solitary meditators are the lighthouses, beaming out love and compassion on the world. Because their beams are focused, they are very powerful. They become like generators, and they are extremely necessary. So I'm at the Abaya Hut trying to be a lighthouse for all of you, and I'm going to do it. Coming out of retreat. From past experiences, I know that this is as hard as going in. After a quiet, simple life with no conversation, no interaction with others, the demands of contemporary society are really pretty overwhelming. I will need to hit the road and get out of New Zealand before my visa runs out, and I am in conflict with the law. I probably will come off with my cushion in the morning and by afternoon be leaving the country. Vicki McKenzie, Cave in the Snow author, says that some personalities do better than others, and she was delighted when she met Tenzin Palmo after 3 years of retreat and not meeting anyone whatsoever. She was so warm, outgoing, and engaged in life. I myself know that I find other human beings incredibly beautiful, strangely poignant, and deeply connected to me in unique ways. I step out of solitary retreats with new knowledge about myself, full of compassion and absolutely in love with all beings and with life in general. I realize how very fragile this human life is, and thus how precious it is. And again, how committed I am to using all the days of my life to live as fully and mindfully and compassionately as possible. And the last two phrases from a poem by Jay Sankapa that is on my refrigerator and that I look at often. And it says, "All worldly things are brief, like lightning in the sky. This life you must know as the tiny splash of a raindrop, a thing of beauty that disappears even as it comes into being. Therefore, set your goal. Make use of every day and night to achieve it." So I'm going to work on that. Thank you. And now the good stuff. That includes visuals. By the way, all the lectures I've done, the lights have always been out. No one has looked at me. We're all just looking at images because I'm a visual artist. So this whole idea of standing up in front of people and actually looking at them, speaking, is quite unusual for me. So I'm going to go ahead and hook up the computer, and then we only have about 10 or 15 slides. Then you get to have juice and cookies. This is not an art class. This is winter on 2nd Street.
Yeah.
This is where I live. This is where I'm coming from, and here's the same view in summer. Last summer, this was what was growing there. And here's the house that I'm leaving. Yes, I'm draining the pipes, and yes, I'm shutting it all down. I'm not really putting in a garden this summer because I'm not going to be there to harvest it at all. And there's my wonderful lake. This is August blue moon, 9 o'clock at night. That's my kayak upside down at the dock on the end of 2nd Street. That's where I'm coming from, and this is where I'm going. Is that dazzling? This is the pinnacles in the Coromandel Peninsula. It's very rugged land, lots of ups and downs, I was told. Nagabodi was visiting Arialoka just 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he said, "Get some decent shoes, Kiranada." I said, "I'm just wearing my sandals and some wellies." He goes, "No, no." So I was up there at Kittery Trading Post finding shoes, boots, and take some hiking poles. I said, "Hiking poles?" Mama has loaned me her hiking poles. The land was originally forested, and harvested. The wood was cut down about 150 years ago. We were told that that wood went over and built San Francisco. Did you? Probably wood frame buildings in San Francisco, you thought they were from the Rocky Mountains. No, New Zealand, they sent them over. And after that, gold was discovered, so there are lots of mines, and the land was quite ravaged to begin with. And about early in the and these great kauri trees, unbelievable, things that we have no idea what they are. I'm studying, learning about them, as well as all the Maori background, the spirits that are there. I have to pay homage to the spirits before I move into the house to make sure everybody's going to be happy for me to be there. The forest looks a bit like, something like New Hampshire, for sure. Deep, yes. This is Sudarshanaloka, land of beautiful vision, it translates. The land was bought, I think it was 1992, 250 acres. By the way, I researched places to do solitary retreats, and I have a file folder, it's about 2 inches thick. And that included, Newfoundland and Nova Scotia and Colorado and Malaysia and all kinds of places, and decided that this was the best conditions. And it got the approval of my acupuncturist, which was what we need to. It's a pretty rough area. Even the sign looks like it's undergone something. They moved in there and had to start plowing roads in, and then they had flash floods that wiped out all the roads. And so it is a pretty rough area. Somebody said there's not much flat ground around. And so they have given me one hut where they say it's somewhat flat around that area. I said, oh, that's a good one. The wonderful thing about it, they were having so much trouble in the building, they decided the first thing they were going to do is build a stupa, 28 feet tall. And look at, that's the sea that you can, no, I'm not on the beach, and I won't be walking down to the beach, but I can see it from there. This stupa is about 10 or 15 minutes from the little hut that I will have. It's great. I'm on the stupa committee up at Aryaloka. This one is dedicated to Darto Rinpoche, who is an extremely wonderful and compassionate bodhisattva, Tibetan, who lived in Kalimpong, India. And we have some of his ashes here, and we're building a stupa in Newmarket, New Hampshire. And this is his as well. So I feel a strong connection between both places. This is where I'll be. There in the center is Amoka Siddhi, and he's the Buddha of the North, I guess, holding up his hand in fearlessness. And this fearless mudra, putting your hands in certain positions, always means something. They're signals. And this one is fearlessness, and that's always resonated with me. I guess because people started saying, gosh, you're fearless, and I said, I am. And this hut is called the Abaya hut. And Abaya is what fearlessness translates. So you can see it's little. And inside there, I think I have a better slide. That's it. There. Is that sweet? There's my porch. There's my solar electricity on the top, 12 volts when the sun's out. There's my outhouse over there on the right. What you can't see is the shower in the back, the solar outdoor shower. And what I've been told is, I'm going in winter. July is winter. It's hard to get my head wrapped around. And it's rainy and wet. And they say, actually it's wet most of the time. Bring long underwear. I'm unpacking my Japanese long underwear. This is inside. There's a chair. Look at, that's so exciting. There's a sink with running cold water. Wait a minute. I see a plug. Gosh, a plug. Oh, this made my day. Look at that. So glad we showed this slide. Look at that. She said there's 2 lights, but I don't know that there's any receptacle. So what did I do yesterday? I ordered a solar charger for my Kindle. So here I am. This is the Sudarshanaloka map, and my hut is way up there, and the stupa is the other circle. The community is over here. The community house is up there. You see a stream, and here's the kauri tree, and etc. As you see, when they have these arrows that go like this, that says going down. It's very rugged. It's all ups and downs. So, but it's kind of fun to have a map. This is my view from the front porch. You see the tree, the giant fern trees, things we've never seen. There I am. There's a water bottle. That's where I'll be every day, talking to the birds. And this is a piece of my artwork, which is called The Path. And it's the last slide, and I thought it was kind of significant to share a little bit of my work with you and what's bringing me to doing this amazing trip. I coordinate the contemplative arts up at Arialoka, and they've already scheduled an exhibition of my work from a year of silence for October of 2015. And I said, have somebody to back up in case nothing happens. You know, all I bring back is rusted horseshoes or something. Yes, in the back.
In various Buddhist literature, people go to these retreats or whatever, apparently to have some sense of spiritual awakening or illumination, like they might say a flash of light that's like more brilliant than 10,000 suns or some such thing, or their consciousness expands onto infinity, and it seems to macrocosmic, microcosmic convolution of some kind. Do these things happen with people that go on these retreats? And if so, what do they personify later?
Tenzin Pomo, who did this for 12 years, doesn't report back. She's very quiet, but it's about her insights or whatever that come from it. And yet we know it makes a difference. I know for myself, I've been able to have a chance to look at myself and my movements in the world tremendously by doing these kind of retreats. And there's always, I mean, if you create the conditions for awakening. So somebody said this was a good idea, so here I go. I hope they don't come up with a few more. So actually, I've been thinking about a 3-year one, but I'm doing the 1-year one first. So, so I guess it is possible. But most of the people that actually come out of those don't. They go out into the world and do their work. As to whether or not they don't spend a lot of time talking about those deep insights. The more you talked about it, the further up the stupa I got. And by the time you finished, I was jumping off the top and just going straight up. So yes, that's transcendence I'm really interested in. So I don't know if that's a good answer. But. Yes?
Well, have you felt when you meditated that you have mini retreats when you meditate?
When I meditate, do I have many retreats? I'm not sure. Many retreats, yeah. Many insights, for sure. For sure.
Yeah, and do you find, and I guess the rest of that question is, I find that the longer you are on a silent retreat, the more benefit you get compared to just meditating.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, I've been meditating for 29 years daily, and I'm this far. And so, again, creating the conditions to go a little bit further. And so that means to take myself out of all the distractions that I have. The Ben & Jerry's Cherry Garcia ice cream, answering the emails, checking on Facebook, answering the telephone, and running the errands. And so to take those all away, what is going to happen? What am I left with? And that's what I'm very curious about and interested in. I answered all your questions, including the food, right? Yes.
But being of the practical sort, you're not going to be working for a year.
I'm not working for a year.
So you needed to save up your money, and I know that we're also trying to help you with some of that money, and I just wondered how it's going for you.
I'm doing good. I started this off last October. We did a website. My friend in New Mexico set it up, and she said, let's do some fun things. Let's say, okay, you hit this button and you can buy Kiranada's winter robes. That's known as my jacket from LL Bean. Or, and somebody yesterday sent me some money for my lunches for the month of December. So in December, I'm eating lunch with Shirley. And I have people sitting in the audience that are eating meals with me for the month of August, etc. And some people are buying feathers for me to fly. I've gotten there. I'm there. My problem is I don't quite have enough money to get home.
We need you to come home.
And so that, a wonderful foundation in England has actually given me 650 British pounds, and they said, will you let us know this weekend how things are going, because we know you still need more. So it's been good. And there's buttons on that website where you could donate, or there's Charlotte put a basket up in the back. If you wanted to write a check out, that would be fine. That'd be lovely. Feather is only $20, and if I get something like 30 people, then I have my airfare home. So, anyways, any other questions? So, it's amazing. Staying in this hut is the most expensive place I've ever paid. I was flabbergasted. People rent houses for a lot more than I do. I was just flabbergasted. There were so many places that I couldn't do a solo retreat because they were too expensive for me, because I really live a bit of a renunciance lifestyle and live very close to the bone. And so, it's been exciting. The visa, I was on the phone with the people down in Washington, D.C. I need a chest x-ray in order to get into New Zealand, because I've been in Mexico and Indonesia. And I need a certain thousands of dollars in my bank account in the next 2 weeks to show that I can support myself for an entire year, or they won't give me the visa. It's like, yeah, it's shocking. Heaven forbid I should become indigent, and be on the dole in New Zealand, really. So it's not going to happen, but anyways. Yes, dear.
Will you email or write letters or communicate?
Now that I see that plug in that room, that's so exciting. No, I'm actually not. Everybody says, I'm going to follow your blog. And I say, not blogging. No, I'm out of contact entirely for a year. I haven't been able to coordinate this entirely with my daughter, however.
Yeah.
Amanda's going to be sending some things to me every 3 or 4 months, and I'm going to share her address with my friends who can send cards or whatever to her. She'll just include them in that, but don't expect a reply back from me. But Amanda, the plan is that I really am sending you a postcard every month or 2 months, so that all of you people that go by Rite Aid Pharmacy in Exeter, where my daughter works, and say, how's your mother doing? She'll have something to hold up and wave, so that she'll know that I'm still okay.
Yes. Okay. Do you have contact with the crew that runs the place?
It took me 5 months to get a reply the first time. And I said, this is not really going to work well if they're so slow. They're very laid-back people in New Zealand, and the Australians are likewise. I was mentioning, you call the university and you have to wait for 10 rings of the phone before they pick the phone up. We're a little bit faster here, and I realize this. But just this past weekend, I got the name of someone who's willing to support me, and she said, not a problem. She said, what do you mean they're only going to give you food every fortnightly, every 2 weeks, fresh vegetables, fresh food, down at the corner, down at the rock where you backpack it up. You should have it every week. I'm going to call them and find out what's going on. So, yes, I have someone who's going to be looking out for me for that. And I'm trying my darndest to figure out all the medical things that I might need, unpacking it. I'm planning on being sick by myself. I've broken my ankle a number of times, so anyways, I'm just going to try to deal with, I've already had the rabid dog bite, so I'm just going to try to handle as many of the things I can by myself, but I'm not going to be foolish. So if I have to come out, I will. And don't ask me how close the nearest hospital is, I haven't found out.
So you will have a communication, a way of communicating out? You have a phone or a...
The guy on the phone said, so bring a phone with you and we'll put a SIM card in for emergencies. And then this woman I spoke to on the phone, I said, that's what he told me. She said, I said, I thought so. With that kind of a landscape, and I'm 25 minutes by car from the nearest town, the reception is not very good. So, but there are 2 people that are living on site at the community house. And we're back to thinking about flares, Amanda. So I'm
Yeah, you need to have like some.
when I get stuck in the hole or whatever, you know, and to let them know where I am, I'm bringing flares. And the discussion is whether I can bring them on an airplane or do I have to buy them locally. I think I have to buy them. That's what I thought, so thank you. I can't tell you how many friends that helping me think all this stuff through. So.
You said that you had 2-inch file of the research that you've done,
Yeah.
but this had the right conditions. What were the right conditions?
My acupuncturist did not want me backpacking all the water up the hill in snow every day, 2 or 3 gallons of water per day. This has running cold water. It's rainwater. It had a bed. I can bring the mirror up. I'll get the toilet paper in, so we're good. And it wasn't severe conditions. I think in Scotland, it's really damp and stone and cold. And same in down in Spain, sunny for sure, but snow in the wintertime. So this rainy, wet winter was more, she thought I should be able to handle that better.
So the conditions for 12 months.
Right. I can manage most anything for 2 weeks, but this was for longer. I will share with you the fact that she really wanted me to have a bathtub because she wanted me to be able to soak in the tub with some Epsom salts. So the guys have actually backpacked a bathtub up. It's in the backyard, a plastic one. And it has no water in it, running, no water. It has a plug. I'm heating hot water. I'm carrying it out, putting it out there, and I'm putting the Epsom salts in. And they said it's awfully rainy. Anyways, I can soak in the Epsom salt bath if I need it, which is what they have in Kingston. I don't have a bathtub. So, but I have an acupuncturist nearby. So, are you good?
Wow.
Yes, David.
What is the menu? What are you actually doing to eat? I've heard some vegetables. Is there anything else?
You heard what?
Vegetables.
I'm a vegetarian, of course, and I don't digest beans well, and so that's why I'm trying to get in there a few days early to get to the store and see what they actually have. I can give them a food list, and they'll buy what I ask them to buy, but I don't want to ask for things that are crazy, that are only what we have in New England, so I need to see what kind of soy products they have, etc. there, and I'm a big nut eater, but we also know that it takes 4 cups of nuts to make enough protein per day, and I can't eat 4 cups of nuts. I wanted to thank the library for hosting this talk.